Freedimizer Radio, where freedomizers freedomize freedom. It's Feline Fury time.
The way somebody looks does not give anybody the right or the authority to violate another human being. Unfortunately, there are people who have had loved ones who have been murdered, and the indoctrination runs so deep about the need to obey our masters that when one of these masters kills a loved one, they will go as far as to make excuses.
Cook's husband doesn't understand why an officer would shoot his unarmed wife.
Personally, I think it may be an overreaction, maybe excessive force, but I can only surmise that.
After how appalling I felt that it was that this happened to this Sunday school teacher that didn't have a weapon, that she was shot 6 times, I knew it was bound to hit Maine, America, because it's been happening in the African-American community all the time.
The violence of statism knows no boundaries. It's colorblind, it's gender blind, it's even handicap blind, it's age blind. It doesn't matter.
Cops are the only people in society that have permission to go around killing unarmed people preemptively because they're scared of them, because of officer safety. No other profession in our nation, including our soldiers that fight overseas, are allowed to go around killing civilians because they're scared of them. We have postmen who go to houses every single day and get tips all the time who don't go around shooting dogs. The cops in this country are cowards. They shoot people who are innocent because they're afraid of them, or at least they say that. They shoot dogs that are innocent because they are afraid of them all the time. It's disgusting. And very few cops actually fight real crime, because very few cops are willing to go out after criminal cops who are destroying people's lives. So I want to stop hearing the refrain that cops are heroes, and I want to hear the refrain from most people in society that cops are cowards.
It's Feline Fury time.
Good morning, Freedomizers, friends, and even foe. Thank you so much for tuning in to TigerLily's Freedom Roar. My name is TigerLily, and I'm your show host for the next hour, a little bit less than an hour because I was running a tad bit late. I have an interesting show today. I had given this about a year's thought, and I have mentioned this on previous occasions, never mentioned a name or anything, but there was a particular lawyer that kind of annoyed me. And I went, I thought, well, what is the point? I mean, this lawyer got me banned from a Facebook group, which is a Facebook group for motorcycle rights activists. And I thought to myself, well, freedom of the owners of their Facebook, they have the total right to block me if they so desire. So, but I thought, this really was, I thought, in my opinion, an injustice to the people that were on that Facebook group. And the reason for it is because I was actually uncovering some very horrific things that were happening to motorcyclists in Nevada and across the country. And I don't limit this tyranny to motorcyclists. I think that our nation has become a police state. And you'll almost never hear mainstream media cover that issue. So for us to think that we live in a country that is the best country in the world, that we have freedom, that yada, 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 that's to be disingenuous and to just not be educated and to be very much plugged into the matrix, as evidenced by the fact that we are not a free nation. I mean, people who tell me I own my house, I own my car, well, try not paying your taxes on your house and let's find out who the real owner is. So I am a very staunch and out-of-the-closet volunteerist. I like to use that word because the word anarchist has too much baggage to it. Just like the word pig-tart has a lot of baggage to it. I mean, and as a matter of fact, it was this attorney who first got me to think that, hey, don't be calling police officers pig-tarts. That's just disrespectful, yada yada. Well, the point is, I don't have any respect for a profession that thrives off of abusing people that they can get away with abusing. I maintain that there are two separate set of standards for people in the United States. And one set belongs to the rulers, which are our so-called elected officials, and their killbots, which are the police officers. And the other set of standards applies to we, the ruled. Now, this attorney, and I'm not even going to mention his name unless he wants to, because I'm thrilled that he called in, and I know he's got a meeting to go to. So I thank you. I'm going to unmute your mic, and at any point if you want to chime in, you may, attorney. The point is that this attorney is he's been a fierce fighter for the club boys, the motorcycle clubs, and it's all of them. I mean, we all it's freedom of expression. I don't care if you're a Hell's Angel, a Vagos, or if you have or if somebody in your group did something violent or illegal. I mean, it's hardly impossible not to do anything illegal. There's so many laws on the books that even if you don't know that there was a law, I recently went to court. I appealed a case, and the person before me, one of the issues was that his son was riding his bicycle on the sidewalk, and that there's an ordinance against that in the city of North Las Vegas. So the parent got cited for that. Now, I just got a bicycle, so I've been really reading up on the laws because I am also an open carrier and such. So going back to this attorney and this Facebook activism group, this Facebook group, what I did is I exposed, I've talked ad nauseum on this show about helmet laws, and it is my opinion and my firm belief that helmets, that this notion that helmets save lives is a myth. It is a superstition. It's like saying that the world is flat. Every time somebody sailed off into the horizon and didn't come back, it concluded that, hey, the world is flat and they fell off the end of the earth. If they did come back, the sailors, then, well, they just didn't go far enough. So either way, it confirmed the superstition that the world was flat. It wasn't until later technology and later science, empirical evidence was provided that we came out of this superstition to understand that the world, in fact, is not flat. Now, the same reasoning applies to just about every aspect of our life. We should evaluate whether our ideology is based on fact or on superstition. Now, there are a few people alive today who will tell you that a helmet saved their life. And granted, maybe it did. But there's a whole lot of people who have been killed on motorcycles while wearing a helmet, and big helmets too. In fact, my own trainer, who went by the name Double D, I think, he trained me at the Las Vegas training facility, Harley Davidson there, and he bragged about having I don't know how many millions of miles of experience. Well, he was killed on his motorcycle wearing a so-called DOT helmet. So if the dead could talk, if the dead sailors who died because they were trying to prove that the world was round, if they could talk, they would say, hey, you know what, I didn't fall off of the end of the earth. What happened was that, we got diseases and we didn't get back in time. There was a storm. There was a malfunction of the ship. Well, maybe, just maybe, people who are riding motorcycles with these fancy $800-900 helmets and got killed anyways, maybe if the dead could talk, they could explain that, you know what, if it wouldn't have been for this helmet, I would have been able to see something, hear something. Perhaps the wind gust wouldn't have gotten trapped under the rim of my helmet to parachute me out of control. But the dead are dead, and mainstream media continues to feed into this indoctrination that, hey, to blaming the motorcyclist, that, hey, it's the motorcyclist's fault for wearing a novelty helmet, for example, or for not wearing a helmet in a helmet choice state. So the punishment for something as trivial as your choice of headgear in Nevada has been absolutely brutal, and I've proven this in a number of ways. Through blogging, through articles when I used to write for a motorcycle magazine. But my techniques are sometimes harsh and offensive, and I recognize that, and I have tried at times to tone myself down, as was, the sage advice of this attorney. And I no longer use the word pigtard. Instead, I use the word killbot, because basically that's what police officers are, is killbot.
So that's not much better.
Okay. Thank you so much for wanting to chime in. So you've got the floor, Mr. Attorney, and please go on ahead and tell me where I'm wrong.
Okay, so standing for your principles, I understand that. Okay, I get that. What I don't get is the fact that you're sabotaging what you're doing, and you're sabotaging what everybody else is doing because you don't want to play nice with others. We can talk about Judge Kearns, for example. Okay, I've shown that video that you put on YouTube, and I've seen the video, and I've shown it to other attorneys, and every attorney has come to the same conclusion. That Judge Kearns did the right thing, and he acquitted your friend of the helmet violation because the state did not prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Judge Kearns did the right thing. And it's not Judge Kearns' fault that the prosecutor didn't know what he was talking about. The judge is there, and the judge is presented with the laws, and that prosecutor wasn't prepared at all. And so, of course, the judge then has to go and look up the laws and do what he needs to do. But your treatment of Judge Kearns was so unfair and just so wrong that there's a lot of people in the motorcycle community that just choose not to be associated with you because we can't be associated with that. We're trying to do good. We're trying to make change. And being associated with you takes us 2 steps backward for every step we do forward. I don't think you're fair. I don't think you're reasonable. I think you have a lot of passion, and I know you think you're right. And you might be right on some things, but because you're wrong on others and you go so passionately after people and go for the kill, nobody wants to hear you when you're right. And that's just not something we can be associated with.
Okay, and when you say something that we can be associated with, do you are you of the position? Clearly, you've made it clear that you are a constitutionalist, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. What is it about this? My opinions, as brazen as they may be, that violated the First Amendment right?
Nothing violated the First Amendment right. And just like there's a First Amendment right, well, let's talk about 2 First Amendment rights. There's the First Amendment right, freedom of speech, and there's also the First Amendment right of freedom of association. So if you're going to exercise your freedom of speech in an offensive way that doesn't help what I'm trying to do, I'm going to exercise my freedom of association and choose not to be associated with you. And that's why you're not on the U.S. Defender's Facebook page, and that's why we will not associate you, because you won't change the way you do things, and it makes our life harder. You have every right to say what you want to say. For heaven's sakes, talk, do whatever you want. Just, I don't want to be associated with that, and neither does anybody else in my organization.
Well, when you say neither does anybody else, as I recall, there was, before you saw my post, there were several likes on my videotape by others, and you instantly saw that and reprimanded me publicly, which, is your right. And so
I didn't pay attention to any of the likes. Honestly, I didn't care. Yeah, it's one of those things where we're trying to do things with the legislature, and the legislature has friends, and the legislature doesn't mind when you fairly criticize their friends. But the legislature doesn't want you unfairly criticizing their friends because they think that you're the kind of person that will unfairly criticize them if you don't get what you want too. It's playing nice with others. Okay, this Facebook page, and it is the U.S. Defenders Organization. I'm the Southern Nevada commander for the U.S. Defenders Organization. It's a biker civil rights organization, and we fight hard to make sure everybody's constitutional rights are in fact honored. We do a lot for this community. In fact, we're even having a fundraiser this Saturday in Boulder City, 12 to 5 at the Boulder Inn and Suites. You're welcome to come and partake in that. But it's not a matter of your First Amendment rights. It's a matter of whether or not we want to be associated with somebody that just acts without thinking about the repercussions and hurts the cause.
Let me ask you this question. How long has Nevada been a helmet bondage state?
I have no idea. And honestly, I don't care.
Oh, okay. Over 40 years. Now, you said play nice to get what you want. Now, before I came along, and I only got involved 2.5 years ago with the legislative process, I was with you. Hey, let's get the stats and let's prove that it's a freedom of expression thing. It's a freedom of choice. That yada yada yada. I was there with you 2.5 years ago. But after my experiences, and I just recently, by the way, got the DVD player that will absolutely expose the legislators that not only were not our friends, they pretended to be our friends and stabbed us in the back. So I think it's illogical to believe that by playing nice with a system that is not designed to play nice, that has a completely different set of rules for themselves compared to the citizenry, I think that's illogical.
How are things working out for you with the way you've been handling things? What have been the results?
Well, I can tell you this. In the history of Nevada, never once has a helmet choice bill gotten out of a committee. Not once. When I got involved 2.5 years ago in the 2011 legislative process, I did homework. Shirley Breeden was the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, and she kind of used us, and so did Senator Mark Menendo. We held a hearing, and basically I think she thought that she was going to do the exact same thing that had been happening for 40 years, which is just kind of tuck the bill underneath, and who cares? It's just bikers. So what I did was I continued to very nicely, I called her, she spoke to me, and I memorialized the conversation, and I'll be happy to, I will be documenting all of this. And I says, okay, so you said that the only thing that you're waiting for, Senator Breeden, is to hear from your insurance people. So what I did is I consulted the insurance experts that I know and provided her with what she had asked for. So 24 to 48 hours before the deadline to vote yes or no on that bill. When I saw that she wasn't moving, I sent out a massive email, and I said, Senator Breeden is stalling us, and I created...
There you go. TigerLily, why do you all of a sudden jump to these stupid conclusions? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to call you stupid. I didn't mean that. But how do you know she's stalling you? Do you know how much work those people do? You know, you throw out all these allegations, and you don't have any evidence that she was doing it to stalling you. You only have evidence that she's not doing it as fast as you want her to. Or maybe she even broke a promise to you. But that's the exact type of thing that I'm talking about. You're sabotaging everybody that's trying to do things. You're making it so that not only do you not get what you want, but nobody else gets what they want.
Well,
do you have any evidence that she purposely tried to do you have any evidence that she purposely tried to stall you?
I have this evidence, and I won't answer yes or no. Well, I'll answer no because that's the truth. I don't have any tangible evidence that she deliberately stalled the bill. I do have evidence, however, that when push came to shove and she got so much mail from the people that I incited, that she sent a text message to Bones. I know you know who Bones is, and told Bones, please tell your people to back off. I am going to put the bill to a vote. This is the first time in the 40 years history that a helmet choice bill had been put to a vote, and it's my opinion that it was as a direct result of the slamming that she got by the email that I produced.
Exactly.
Now,
that's what you do, TigerLily. You slam people. That's what you do. And that's why we can't be associated with you. You said it yourself. That's not the kind of action I want to be any part of. You know, there are people that are willing to work and do things, but we're not willing to do it your way.
Well, and that's fair enough. The other piece of evidence I have that circumstantial evidence that would indicate to me that she was stalling the bill is that here she campaigned with Abate. Here Abate helped her get elected. And when push came to shove, both she and Senator Menendez, who were co-sponsors, voted no. And they didn't vote no because
Do you think Abate's the only people that helped her to get elected?
Oh, I'm certain not.
I'm certain not. Okay, so don't you think she has other constituents? Don't you think even if she gets elected, that doesn't mean she owes anybody anything? You elect somebody to think for themselves and to make a good decision, and you may or you may not like what they have to say or do. But she doesn't owe you anything.
Right. So you really are of the belief that our elected officials nationally have a 6% approval rating, by the way. You really think that our elected officials are there to represent us?
They're certainly there to represent us. That is a true statement. Okay, how they represent us, that's up for debate. And I'm not going to put everybody with a big blanket. If you want to talk to anybody about anybody individually, I'll be glad to talk to you. But they've got a very tough job to do, and they're doing it however they're doing it for whatever reason they're doing it. You know, I can't speak for these people, and I can't even comment on some of them that I don't even know. But the fact is, they're our representatives, and that's the constitutional republic that we're in. That's what we do. So they're going to do what they're going to do, you know, and if you don't like it, you can work to change it, okay? But these bully tactics have to stop. You're making us all look bad.
Well, what about the bully tactics that the police are using against us because of the helmet law and other laws? Are you not offended by that?
Let's talk about it specifically. What exactly are the bully tactics the police are using against you? Please tell me.
Not necessarily against me, but I know in 2009 there was a Henderson party. There was a party at the Harley Davidson Harley-Davidson, Henderson area there. And there were 100 motorcyclists who were stopped by police, and because of their helmet. That was the excuse that they used, that they didn't have a legal helmet and it was a helmet inspection. So these cops, pulled all these guys over and they said, you got two choices. You can either get a ticket or you can go back to where you came from. Well, about half of them chose to get a ticket, and of course it's not just a ticket, because once you get pulled over, these cops with guns and badges, they'll get you for everything that they can possibly get you. I mean, they're going to harass you, basically, and you know that. I mean, you're a representative of a lot.
There are some police officers that harass, and I go after them. We even got one fired here recently. And he ran into the back of one of my clients, and then he tried to bully him into not making a report. And he was fired for that. Well, technically he resigned, but he was given the option of resigning or being fired. Whenever we have evidence of police officers that shouldn't be police officers, we certainly go after those people. But the fact of the matter is, we have a helmet law in the state of Nevada. And the fact of the matter is, if police do their jobs correctly, you can be found guilty of the helmet law in the state of Nevada. We're able to fight, and we're able to get a lot of these things dismissed because they don't do their job correctly. And when they don't do their job correctly, you cannot prove that case, and we're able to have a lot of success with that. But the law is on the books. It's there. Okay? We have to deal with that. And if someone's pulled over, and there's reasonable suspicion that they've committed some crime, including the helmet law, if there's any kind of reasonable suspicion, they're allowed to be pulled over. And if the police officer thinks that there's a probable cause that something's been committed, he's allowed to write a citation, and that's not unconstitutional. And then it has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's where we get them a lot of times. And frankly, there's some police officers that overstep their bounds on numerous occasions, and we'll deal with them. Okay, but you're pretending this helmet law doesn't exist when it does. They can be pulled over. You're saying they were harassed because they were pulled over for the helmets. The law's there. The police officer's just trying to do his job. I have no problem with the police officers. I have problems with police officers that go beyond their constitutional duties. That's the problem.
What percentage of police officers do you think go beyond their call of duty?
I have no idea. I don't know enough of them to know. And the ones that are brought to my attention, what my clients bring to me, it's usually when something's happened. Okay, they're not just talking to talk, but they're bringing me something. And about half the time, someone brings me something, I look at this and say, do you know what? That's not right. Okay, so of the police officers I have dealt with, and that's, I think it's a skewed number because who I deal with and when they come to me, there's a problem when they come to me, about half.
Okay. All righty. Well, do you mind if would you like to say who you are?
Well, my name is Stefans Stubbs.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you and taking the time to call in and give your side of the story, and and hopefully I'll see you this weekend. I intend to be there, and congratulations for getting that police officer to resign. From what I saw on that YouTube, it appeared he was drunk.
There is no evidence he was under the influence. There's only evidence that he was a jerk. So
yeah, right. And
all right. By the way, at this event, we're raffling off an AR-15 .22 caliber rifle. It should be a great event. Leathermouth is playing. It should be great, and all the proceeds go to the costs, not attorney fees, but costs for fighting civil rights cases right here in the Valley. And so it's at the Boulder Inn Suites between 12 and 5, and that's tomorrow, April 20th, Saturday, and we'd love for anybody to come out and participate.
Thank you so much. We're going to have to agree to disagree on methodology. What you're doing is obviously working, and there's definitely a place for it. What I do is expose, because I don't believe that I think that I have two basic principles of philosophy of life, which is the non-initiation of force, and that's what I believe laws are, and respect for property rights. And everything else, nothing else really matters. Everything else is just smoke and mirrors to rob us, including taxation. And so in a free society, which is a society that I don't think I will live in, there will be freedom of choice. And if we can just start with peaceful parenting, I think that would go a long way to preventing some of the violence, some of the horrific violence. As you know, Metro murdered, I'll use a nicer term, during the performance of their duties, the Las Vegas Police Department killed in 2011 12 innocent people. And none of them got fired. In fact, all of them got paid time off. And so this is the system that you're supporting, and this is the system that I'm exposing. And so I thank you so much.
Let's make this clear. It's not the system I'm supporting. It's the system I'm working in to effectuate the correct change. Yeah, I think that's the big difference between me and you. I'll work in the system, and I think we'll get a lot more results that way. And you're trying to change the system and offend people, and you do it by offending people. I think that's an honest statement, and I don't think you'll disagree with that. You're someone that likes to attack and be on the attack, and I'm not criticizing you. I'm just analyzing the situation. But TigerLily, I do want to say I don't hate you. Some people have said that I hate you. That's not true. I just choose not to be associated with you because I don't agree with how you do things, and I appreciate your passion. You're trying to do something right. I have no doubt in my mind you're trying to do the best you can, the best way can, or you know how to. I just can't be associated with you because of your methods. But I do wish you luck.
That's fair enough, and I wish you as well. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in my show.
Okay.
And good luck.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that was the statist view. And I really appreciate that he called in. I was going to actually discuss what was said on that Facebook post, but I didn't. I'm not going to. I don't have a need to now. Let me air what the cop said to the biker that he rear-ended, and it was a cop in Las Vegas who rear-ended a biker, and the normal. I mean, if you or I rear-ended a biker, oh, my God, I know I'd be horrified. It's like, bikers, as a biker myself, we're very vulnerable, and we have to take extra precautions to stay safe, and that's a choice that we make. But in this case where this YouTube went viral, oh, my gosh, this cop came out and attacked his victim. And so let me air that.
You always hit your brakes like that when somebody's changing a lane.
I'm sorry?
You always hit your brakes like that when somebody's changing a lane.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He was way up there. Getting this on film because I am.
Yeah.
Okay. I got your brake lights and I got the car clear up there.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure he saw me. He was coming in.
Yeah, because you're clear over on the white line.
Right.
Yeah.
For my safety.
Your brake lights on.
Right, you understand that, right? For my safety, so.
No, you stay up with traffic. That's what the thing is. And then you don't hit your brakes right when somebody's behind you.
What?
Jesus Christ, that's against the law.
I wasn't aware that you were that close to me, sir.
I wasn't. I can't stop that goddamn fast when you hit your brakes.
Okay. I understand.
So what do we need?
What can we do?
What can we do?
Yeah.
I can write you a shitload of tickets.
Okay. How can I avoid that?
But just next time, just drive.
Yes,
normal.
Sir.
Normal.
Yes, sir.
Just drive normal.
Yes, sir.
We good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, no problems.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, have a nice night.
Oh my gosh, that was exactly what happened, and it's absolutely appalling that this man treated this biker that way, but that is more the norm than the exception. And there's been arguments that, hey, we need cops. Well, maybe, but why not privatize it? I mean, it would be easier to fire a cop if he worked for a corporation than what we have now, which is a gigantic union that protects their own. So in virtually every single case I've seen across America where a police officer goes above and beyond the call of duty to brutalize his victim, they get paid time off. And rarely ever do they do any jail time. Whereas if you or I, who are not part of the system, do anything even remotely similar to what these police officers do, you can stand by to be caged and raped for years. And that's the statist position, that this is okay, that there are laws that we must obey. But let's be real. There are laws that are designed to punish real crimes, real violations of universally preferable behaviors, like murder and rape and so forth. But even those laws don't apply to the people that are in the state. And this attorney that I had is very, very closely linked to this state. I mean, it's pretty difficult. It would be really difficult. I mean, after 8 years of schooling and what have you, and articles that you write, and the investment that you make in a career, it's really difficult to try to go against it and to expose the immorality of our government. And this immorality is proven based on the fact that we have more people in prison in the United States than in any other country on the planet. And that includes communist China and former communist Russia combined. Land of the free, home of the brave, not so much. As far as me being having really bad tactics, none of my tactics are violent. I consider myself a bully of bullies, and nothing I do will harm a person, physically, and if it harms them psychologically, then there was a reason for that, because I have a very soft spot in my heart for victims, for people who can't defend themselves, which is why I'm an advocate of peaceful parenting, and which is why I expose at every opportunity the tyranny that goes on in the United States with the support of statist people who believe in the Constitution, and anybody who thinks that our judicial system is here, exists to get justice, has never tried to get justice using that system. Therefore, why have a system? So I'm going to go to commercial break. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back with some closing comments after the break. And you're listening to TigerLily on TigerLily's Freedom Roar, and it's freedomizerradio.com. Part of all of the ills of society, in my opinion, not in my opinion, really, and there's a lot of empirical evidence by that, is this notion that our children must respect us. When we marry, that's a voluntary relationship, and we can divorce our spouse if they abuse us or what have you. But our little children, they didn't choose their parents, their religion, their ethnicity, their government. They have no choices about things. So it's even more important, more crucial, to be extra respectful and mindful of our children. To spank a child to teach them not to hit another child is a total contradiction. Be peaceful so that we can raise children who don't know what violence is. And if we didn't know what violence is, we wouldn't use it. Now, of course, this is utopia talking, and will I see it in my lifetime? Probably not. But I can tell you right now, that thousands and thousands of parents have stopped spanking their children based on the teachings of the top philosopher on the web today. His name is Stefan Disassociation, and I think I am being able to upload what he had to say about when I called him about Stephen Stubbs, and because I was wondering whether or not it was even worth it to expose him. How much time did I need to expose him? So here we go. Let me see. Billy Graham's mom.
Hello, everybody. It's Stefan Molyneux from Freedom Aid Radio. I am thrilled and delighted to have Janet Heimlich on the show. For those who don't know, it was your grandfather who actually invented the Heimlich maneuver?
No, my father.
So you've written a very powerful and grim, I mean, there's no other way to put it. It is hard reading. I think it is important reading. The book, of course, is Breaking Their Will. No, so let's, I just want to quote a few statistics from the book, which I think are always worth reviewing. And, of course, you give good reasons for focusing on the U.S. In your book. But, of course, more than 80% of Americans belong to one religion or another. More than half of Americans say religion is very important in their lives. And more than a quarter of Americans say they attend church at least once a week. 86% of Americans believe in God, a universal spirit, a higher power, and so on. More than 80% believe in heaven. Nearly 70% believe in hell, and 70% believe in the devil. And they're more likely to believe in the devil, hell, and angels than in Darwin's theory of evolution. And a higher percentage of Americans firmly rejects the concept of evolution than do those living in any of the 32 European countries and Japan. More than 3/4 of Americans believe God sometimes intervenes to cure people who have a serious illness. More than 40% of Americans believe Jesus will return to Earth within the next 40 years. That's very specific. And more than 1/3 of Americans believe the Bible is the Word of God. And the progress in pushing back some of this religiosity, at least from the agnostic or atheist perspective, has been somewhat lacking. And so, although the Bible doesn't have a lot in it pertaining to parent-child relationships, how to raise children, I think it would be crazy to say that the most influential book in the world, really, if you count the Old Testament, and certainly in the West, if the Old and New Testament, does not have an effect on how parents interact with their children. You talked, I think, I'm thinking about the story of Billy Graham's mother. But his mother was proud to overcome her own instincts and to not intervene when Billy Graham's dad was beating the living crap out of him as a boy, by basically saying, well, the father is the head of the household. He is inspired by God. It is my duty to obey the husband as he obeys God, and so on. And her natural instincts to intervene when her child is being beaten were really, and she, pridefully, I got the sense of in the passage you quoted, squelched by this sense of religious duty and obligation. And in the same way, when you talk about the very powerful chapter that you have on female and male circumcision, the woman who says to the doctor, if I'd had a gun when you were cutting the tip of my boy's penis off, I think I would have shot you. She says, I would have shot you, not even I think. The power of ideology to overcome what I think most biologists would say are pretty primal human instincts to take care of your young, to protect them from harm and so on, is incredibly powerful, and I think gives lie to the fact where people say, well, these doctrines have no influence on parenting. Right,
especially if the person is raised with those doctrines from birth. And again, I think it goes back to this idea that a child, and then later an adult, will receive love, whether it's God's love, a parent's love, or religious leaders' love, that all of that will be theirs if they follow these rules and if they are completely obedient. So, Mrs. Graham was proud of herself because she was doing what she had been taught was the right thing to do, and as a result of her obeying that, there was some reward there in terms of people respecting her or appreciating her. I can't talk about her on a very individual level. I didn't know the woman, and I just read her autobiography. But that one particular passage did, I think, really point out how subtle these kinds of influences are, where there's actually a reward for not recognizing a child's need for protection, for safety, for the need to develop one's mind and that kind of thing. And I think if the parent is brought up with that, from birth, then you're just going to see this cycle continuing.
Yeah, just by the by, I mean, reading one of a hugely influential book in my life was Paul Johnson's Intellectuals. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's a sort of a history of the childhood and adulthood and moral choices of some very prominent intellectuals in the 20th century, and reading the history of the childhood histories of U.S. presidents and so on. I mean, the amount of unprocessed pathology in public figures makes you wonder if the entirety of society might just be incredibly traumatized and not notice it.
Okay, so that was about Billy Graham's upbringing, and while that was happening, I managed, thankfully, to upload what Stefan Molyneux said about my situation, where I was debating whether or not, or I was trying to, in my conscience, decide whether it would be a moral or immoral thing to expose Mr. Stubbs, who graciously called in, expose him in the sense that I felt that he was a hypocrite for being a constitutionalist, advocating constitutionalism, while at the same time silencing me. He gave his reason for silencing me, and he has that perfect right to do that. But the thing is, you know, he can't completely silence me. I mean, my husband's tried for 31 years, and it ain't going to happen. So wherever I see bullyish behavior, I will expose it, and I'm not very nice about it, and I make no apologies for that. So here's a 38 clip of what Stefan Molyneux said about that specific issue.
That's a good question. I would guess that his motives is that maybe he would face some negative repercussions for his career if he were found to be associated with people who were talking trash about judges, right? I mean, lawyers are kind of dependent on judges, right? So maybe he's concerned that someone would complain, or maybe he was concerned that some opposing lawyer would use this in some way. So my guess is that he's trying to protect his relationship with the judiciary. Would that be some kind of reasonable guess?
So, yeah, he is part of the system, and it's very, I agreed with Stefan that of course he cannot be associated with somebody as controversial as I, and that was his way of disassociating himself with me, but he also disassociated me from the rest of the group, and there was only like 100 or so people in that group. A lot of them motorcyclists who actually agreed with me and who kind of liked it when I kind of took pot shots at the cops that have been violating them for years. You know, I mean, for heaven's sakes, this helmet law it's not about protecting us. It's all about control and domination over we the motorcycle riding people. So here's a 2-minute. I excerpted 2 minutes out of that conversation that I had with Stefan, and I hope this proves useful. And I hope that I did, what he suggested. So here we go. It's just 2 minutes.
My feeling is that to get drawn into this kind of exposure, it's almost like you're making the system personal. And it's not that that's impossible, but I'm always a bit, at least for me, I'm concerned with making the system personal. Right? So, I mean, this guy's a lawyer. He has to survive in the legal system, which is not an easy thing to do and keep your integrity, right?
Right.
So I think asking him to threaten his own legal profession for the sake of a Facebook post is asking quite a lot, right? And so I think the way that I would approach it, which doesn't mean anything, I'm just telling you what I would approach. The way that I would approach it is to say that the hypocrisy that this man is displaying is another reason why statism has to go. Because here's a guy who's really interested in freedom, who, because he's involved in a state cartel, in a state monopoly called the law, ends up having to violate his own principles about freedom of expression and standing up for the truth in order to maintain his standing or his status within his community. This is another example of why statism has to go. But to take him to task would, I think, be personalizing a bad system. I don't know if this makes any sense, but it's making his choices are not independent of the system that he's operating in. Now, should he be a lawyer? Or is it, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because people don't spend, 8 years getting a law degree and articling and all that kind of crap and then say, hey, I'm an anarchist. I'm going to just, throw it all and go and work at Denny's. People don't generally do that. So I think you could look at this as another tragic example of what statism does to people's integrity. I'm not saying to view him as a victim or anything like that, but he certainly is not. I mean, if he was in a free society, then this would not even be an issue, and I think that's what we want to try and get to, not necessarily fight each individual's adaptation to a destructive system.
So that was his sage advice to me, and I was just kind of going to completely drop the whole thing, but there were a few recent events in which I had to kind of maybe put that final nail in the coffin. And so this idea that because I'm exposing our state representatives that's harming our cause, I absolutely disagree with that. I think that awakening people is what needs to happen. And I'm grateful that I was awakened very, very gently. I was awakened because I was pulled over by a mean Nevada highway trooper who didn't even give me a ticket. She just yelled at me and, was very aggressive. And there's she's got a gun and a badge. And that was my awakening. And I'm thinking, wow, how can somebody have the right or the authority to do that? I mean, aren't they supposed to be working for us? I mean, am I not a taxpayer? So that was my awakening, and that's where I started seeking truth, seeking the reality of things. Other people have been awakened much more violently. I always like to mention Teresa Smith and Bill Scott. Teresa Smith's son was murdered by the Anaheim cops in cold blood, and she had a story that I covered that was chilling. And, of course, the other one is Bill Scott is the father of Eric Scott, who was gunned down by cops at a Costco for concealed carrying, and he was executed. So these days police are prosecutors, judges, and executioners in our country, in this nation for which I served 4 years for, thinking that it was a virtuous thing. And I've had an awakening of my own about that whole thing. And thank you so much for tuning in. This is TigerLily, TigerLily's Freedom Roar on Freedomizer Radio. And I look forward to another great show this time next week. And I want a special thanks to Mr. Stephen Stubbs, who was gracious enough to come on in to the show. Have a great weekend, folks.
Freedomizer Radio, where freedomizers freedomize freedom.